All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 15th of May, 2024. Flyers Daily presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Our Flyers Exit Day interview series continues with a player that, for most of this season, was the most polarizing Flyers player. Sean Couturier became polarizing because of the scratches, and he was the captain. Other players, goaltending became polarizing, but no player more polarizing throughout the season than Morgan Frost. There's Frost detractors, there's Frost defenders, and everywhere in between on that spectrum as well. Now, Morgan Frost this season, it was an interesting year. There was, in the first, 60% of the year, a lot of missed games. 11 total games missed. He played 71 games. He had 41 points. It's not a career high. He had 46 points the year prior in 81 games. He had 19 goals, 27 assists, 46 points in the 22-23 season. This past year, in 71 games, 13 goals, 28 assists, and 41 points. Did go from a minus 12 to a plus 4, which I think is an important number. That's a plus 16 difference in plus minus in total. So that's a pretty important number. That also speaks to the team not giving up as much as they did the year prior and being a better defensive team overall. But Morgan Frost in the season ended up playing 15 minutes and 50 seconds of average time on ice, which was actually down from 16:21 the year prior. Now, the reason Morgan Frost has detractors is the lack of consistency. He needs to get that consistency to that top level from game 1 to game 82. And something changed, though, in that meeting that he had with John Tortorella when he advocated for himself. That seemed to click something in his game and their understanding of each other. And sometimes a coach and a player have to go through that. It took into year 2 for that to happen. But Morgan had a really good second half of 22-23, and then he had a really good kind of last two-thirds of 23-24. He's got to put all of those together next year. I think there's a 60-point player in there next year. I really do. I believe that. I think we saw the skill set even more on display this year, from the spectacular between-the-legs goal to some of the passes and the playmaking abilities that he has. But he has become a polarizing player, and one that, on a team that lacks high-end creative playmaking and skill, Morgan Frost has that. It just needs to be more consistent. But that is what will be on the card for him next season when it all begins with training camp in September and regular season in October. But we've got a long way to go between now and then. And Morgan is a guy that, 24 years of age. He's been around for a while now. He's played 229 NHL games. He's got 110 points in those 229 games. And there's more there. That's the good news. Sometimes players don't hit their maximum stride in their development until a little bit later. And let's just be honest about it. He did not have a normal development between injuries and obviously the pandemic striking. Just as he's starting his pro career wasn't ideal. Maybe some players in that same situation handled it better or handled it differently and got to a higher level quicker. But we'll see what this year. This is a really big year coming up for Morgan Frost. But I had a chance to catch up with Morgan for his Exit Day interview, and here's my conversation with the Flyers Center. His Flyers Exit Day and Flyers Daily as we wrap up the season with Flyers forward Morgan Frost. Frosty, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I think physically good, mentally a little tired, and obviously a little disappointed that we didn't make it, but happy with the effort we put forth, and nice to be feeling good physically.
What is it, if you guys would have just limped all the way home, not battled back after the skid, to me that would have been not a sign of anything, but the fact that you go to New York, you beat the Rangers, you win a 1-0 game against the Devils in that 82 game
Mm-hmm.
means a ton. That just tells me your group never quit, and they stuck together.
Yeah, I think it shows. It definitely shows the resiliency that we showed all year, and didn't go down without a fight. Obviously, could have played better in some of those games, but yeah, I think it would have sent a bad message and a bad precedent, and especially going into next year if we kind of just gave up on it there. So it was encouraging to see that, and obviously fell short, but I think we played two of our best games in those last three. So
you can learn from that too, and you guys were so good against top teams this year. I go back to the Colorado 5-2 win on the road earlier this season, the Winnipeg on a back-to-back. You shut them out 2-0. Mm-hmm. You can look at, obviously, that Ranger game and so many other times. Florida twice on the road, you beat them 2-1. But then you have the stretch against some teams that we would deem as inferior. Mm-hmm. Somehow you got to take all of that at some point and use it going forward. How do you do that? But you got to take a little break between now and then, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, definitely a little break, but I think it's encouraging that we were beating a lot of those good teams, and I think we kind of put the league on notice that that we are a good team and that we're coming. So we showed a lot of character this year.
Your growth as a player, again, you're a lot like Owen Tippett in the sense for me that when I see your confidence, I see that creativity, and that's just such a hallmark of your game. Mm-hmm. When you go into this off season, how do you remember to have that so when you begin next year, you attack with it?
Definitely takes a little time to think about it, and it's tough right now just based on how it just ended for us, and but I think once you kind of get home and kind of think things through, I think it's easier to remember a lot of the good that we did this year and a lot of the good things that could have happened for each individual, and hopefully I can remember some of the good parts of my season and come in confident and kind of play that way, because I think when I'm not playing that way, I'm not a very effective player out there. So got to find it and keep it.
I remember that sauce pass to Farabee after you knock a shot down in the D zone or the goal through your legs. Last thing for you, the way you've handled adversity, personal adversity, whether it's being taken out of the lineup or not playing a certain amount of minutes, is way beyond your years. As a young player, a lot of times they won't handle things like that properly. But you've taken it all in stride, been a really good teammate in the face of difficult personal adversity as a hockey player. Where did that come from?
I feel like I've faced a fair amount of adversity growing up, even through minor hockey, and I don't know. I think there's still a way sometimes where I can handle my emotions better and not get so down on myself. But at the same time, I think I've just kind of grown up a lot since I first came here, and I think there's been so many ups and downs that I think now I'm starting to learn how to handle them better, and I think I'm starting to kind of phase out of the young guy stage. And
so you would have maximized their effect in a positive way.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've just learned a lot from the older guys on our team, and even throughout all these years, I think I've had so many great leaders and guys that have kind of taught me how to handle things. So I wouldn't say it's all myself, but definitely something that I try to take pride in is getting over stuff like that.
Frosty, enjoy the summer, man. I can't wait to see what you bring to the table again next year. Thanks for doing this, and again, you're a guy that I lean on a lot, so thanks for doing it, and enjoy the summer.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
There he is, Morgan Frost, and the last question that I kind of asked him about there was how he's handled that adversity. Now look, Morgan Frost probably at every other level was getting tons of minutes, power play, star of the team. I think it's pretty admirable the way that he has handled, being out of the lineup and not being out there in the key moments. he's a guy that doesn't walk around pouting, and really, I think, handles his business really well in that regard. That has impressed me about the way that he has handled those situations, and that's something that going forward could pay him some dividends as well. So we'll see where it goes from here for Morgan Frost. Again, really big season. I think there's a 60-point season in there, and I'm going to just tip my hand now. It was one of my bold predictions last year. It's going to be a bold prediction next year that he's going to be a 60-plus point producer coming up next season. I think it's a really important year for him. I think he knows it. I think his game has matured, and if he can come into the season with the confidence and knowing the player that he can be and get off to a good start, pretty good start, and putting up some points, I think he can ride that to a really big year for the Flyers this coming season. So thanks to Morgan Frost for joining us in his exit day player interview. And we'll have another one coming up on Friday. It'll be Scott Laughton, another player that not polarizing what people think of Scott Laughton, but polarizing is he part of the future. So we'll have Scott Laughton joining us coming up on Friday's episode as we continue our Flyers Exit Day interview series as well. I'm going to get to a DM, but I just want to muse real quick about the playoffs, because these playoffs, again, have been interesting. One of the things Bill and I discussed on Monday's episode was roster construction and how you build a team for regular season success and how that differs from building a team for postseason success. Like, you look at the Rangers, they've obviously been very good in these playoffs, and they're a little up against it now. Carolina's won 2 games after the Rangers go up 3-0 in that series, and we'll see what happens in that one going forward. But when you look at the teams that are having success in these playoffs, what is it about their identities that is allowing that? And to me, it just so much speaks to depth and defined roles. And I think that's something that you have to consider when you're building a team. You can build a team that is really fun in the regular season, but is not going to go anywhere in the playoffs. That much we know. How you balance those things, I think, is really interesting. And it's going to be interesting to see, how the second round plays out, and then how the conference finals and the cup final play out, because the other part of it is, goaltending. You look at Seelovs in Vancouver, comes out of nowhere, played most of the year in the AHL, and with the injury to Thatcher Demko has been really good for that team. You look at, some of the goaltending that teams are getting, and you have guys like Jake Ottinger in Dallas and Igor Shesterkin with the Rangers, and it's been kind of a little bit of a rotation in Carolina. But boy, it's really interesting. What are they going to do in Boston? Do you go to Olmark and put Swayman on the bench? The goaltending has been such a key element for all these teams, and it shows you that sometimes in the playoffs you may need more than one, and that obviously would be a big question mark for the Flyers going forward. Do you have one, and do you have two that can give you really good goaltending performances? There's some questions there. We saw some really good elements to Sam Erson's season, really good stretches, and I like the way he finished the season. We don't know about Ivan Fedotov yet. I'm not making any judgments based on the 3 appearances that he made at the end of last season, but there's a lot in that regard as well when it comes to building a playoff team and a team that can go far in the playoffs. First, you got to make it, though. You got to be good enough in the regular season to be a team that can punch a ticket to the postseason to start answering those playoff-type questions as well. And I think next year is a year for the Flyers where they got to be a playoff team. They got to move into being a playoff team. That's the next step in this evolution of this rebuild. You got to be a playoff team next year. And we'll see if they're able to do that in year 3 under John Tortorella. Now, speaking of goaltending, I wanted to get to this DM. I got it from Michael Finn just the other day. And he said, Jason, I know you're a keen observer of goalies. Perhaps on Flyers Daily, you can discuss the number of goals being scored in the playoffs, high, short side, over the shoulder, many of them from bad angles, as goalies are on their knees. Are players just smartening up on that vulnerability, or are goalies just going down too much? Zadorov's goal in Game 2 on Skinner in that Edmonton series is a perfect example. Now, this is it's a combination, I think, of the two. And what the goalie is doing there is they're going into what is called RVH, which stands for reverse vertical horizontal, where they go down into a position. As soon as the puck kind of gets down below the hash mark, I would kind of call that a dead angle. The goaltender will go down into RVH. To me, that's too early. Let me break out my whiteboard. All right, so a dead angle in goaltending. For this example, the Zadorov goal was scored on this side of the ice, on the left side of the ice. Dead angle would basically be from the hash mark to the post. That would be considered a dead angle. So the goalie goes down into RVH, covers the lower third of the net, but it leaves the porch open. Now, if the goalie is too flat, which means they're angled kind of along the goal line, it really opens that. You want to be at a 45-degree angle, which makes the post lean a little bit higher. But goalies are overusing that, and players have smartened up to it. Improper use of the RVH is a real problem. There's no reason to get off your edges and stay on your feet in that situation. You got much better kind of coverage on your post lean. It's not as good low, but it's better high. And players are so good at exploiting the smallest of areas that a goaltending is giving them. Plus, when you're in an RVH and you're on your knees and you're leaning against the post and they shoot to that pocket, you can't lift your arm to get there to block it. The goaltender has handcuffed himself into a straitjacket, and the only way to make the save would be to move your head, but your head can't even get there quick enough or into the right spot. So it is a real issue. It's goaltenders doing two things: going into RVH too early and not at the right time, and number two, they're also getting into RVH and they're flat. They're along the goal line when they need to be crunked at 45 degrees. To me, the RVH is a better move for a goaltender, to better selection on low to high plays. When plays come from below the goal line, goaltender can be in RVH. Pass comes from low to high out front. Goaltenders pushes off that post. He's already got the bottom third covered. And because most of those bang plays, when you have a puck from a low to high pass, so from below the goal line, goaltender looking back to out front, that shot attempt is going to be in the lower third. And because you're already on your knees, you have that covered. You don't have to have the time it takes to get down as well. I am not a fan of it being used, especially like the Zadorov goal, off the rush. Goaltender should never take himself off his feet, off the rush, until the shot comes. Don't go into it before the shot has come. Now, if Zadorov keeps taking that puck down around behind the net, then you can go into RVH and then follow it around and go to the other side and get a seal on the other post. But that wasn't the case. Taking yourself off your skates and your ability to move on your feet, not a good move. Plus, again, going into it, off the rush especially, puts the goaltender's ability to make saves into a straitjacket. Not a good plan. Not a good way with the way players can shoot the puck in today's NHL. So there you go. There's the explanation, at least my answer to it, Michael. Appreciate the DM as well. All right, Friday we'll have Scott Lawton and his exit day interview. So join us then, coming up on a brand new Flyers Daily.